If Derrick Henry is back with the Tennessee Titans in 2024, it'll be more about accepting a new role than the price of his contract. I'll explain why on today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast. Let's get it.
You are Locked On Titans, your daily Tennessee Titans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Titans podcast. I am your host, Tyler Rowland. Titans fans, today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. We got a lot to discuss on today's show. Bringing Derrick Henry back in 2024. Should the Titans do it? Also, Chig, Okonkwo, and Treylon Burks show signs of life. And then finally, we'll check in on the Tennessee Titans tank. All right, so a lot to discuss before we get into it. Thank you for making the Locked On Titans podcast your first listen each and every day. Remember, Monday through Friday, Tennessee Titans content all year round, always for free. You're not going to get that anywhere else, so make sure you get subscribed, stay subscribed. It's your team every day here on the Locked On Titans podcast. Shout out to my everydayers out there tuning in Monday through Friday all week long. Couldn't do it without you guys. Got great stuff for you coming up on Thursday with Crossover Thursday with Corbin Smith of Locked On Seahawks, and then Game Plan Friday as well. And then, of course, I'll be live after the game on Sunday, even on Christmas Eve. So make sure that you stay locked in to the Locked On Titans podcast. But with that being said, should the Tennessee Titans bring Derrick Henry back next year? To me, it's more than just his contract. It's more than just what Derrick Henry will cost the Titans. It's about his ability to accept a new role. For me, that's really where the Titans and Derrick Henry may have a breakdown in what they're looking for. So what I want to do is first talk about where Derrick Henry's at right now, because I just got done watching the tape of the Houston Texans game. I've been watching the tape all year, and I've been saying, despite people not necessarily wanting to hear it, that you can certainly see Derrick Henry's regression. If you want to look at the numbers, you could look at the break tackle numbers, you could look at the yards per carry numbers, but to me, that doesn't tell the whole story, because the reality is the Tennessee Titans offensive line has regressed in a real way, and I feel like anytime that you criticize Derrick Henry, that's immediately where his defenders go. But the O-line is really bad. The O-line is really bad, but I'm not the only person that notices, hey, sometimes the O-line does a good enough job and Derrick Henry could either help him out or do his job better. And those weren't things that you said necessarily as consistently as you do now when Derrick Henry was in his prime, which was really 2019 and 2020. It was a 2-year prime, incredible peak of talent. But it's okay to admit that Derrick Henry may not be the running back that he was during that run. And quite honestly, there's no way around it. And that Houston game, not only was it, that is the worst statistical output we've seen from Derrick Henry, or we've seen in the NFL since like the 1950s. 20 touches for 10 yards. It was bad. Now, again, not all Derrick Henry's fault, but when you watch the tape, there are holes that he missed. There are one-on-one situations where he should make a tackler miss. And again, I'm not the only person that notices that. This is what Mike Vrabel had to say when he was asked, is Derrick Henry an elite running back in the NFL? Again, this is about explaining things, okay? Vrabel said, quote, "We understand that Derrick's got a certain running style, great skill set, and we have to be able to get him going and give him some space and get him to the second level. He, in turn, has to be able to help the line, help the receivers, help the tight end. It all goes hand in hand. You don't just hand it to a guy and they beat 3 people. But there's also times where guys make a great cut, or guys make a guy miss, or Derrick stiff arms a guy. So certainly after yesterday, nobody was good enough. Everybody involved. So Mike Vrabel sees what I'm seeing as well. And that's why it makes it difficult to bring Derrick Henry back, because the Titans offense needs to evolve. The Titans offense needs to modernize. Derrick Henry in the backfield is too predictable. He's not a good enough asset in the passing game, and it just makes it tough. The Titans can no longer be an offense where Derrick Henry is the engine and where Derrick Henry gets 20 carries per game for the Titans to be at their peak. That's just not the way they should play offense anymore. They need Tyjae Spears to be the lead back, and they need a running back by committee. No more bell cow stuff like with Derrick Henry. When I say lead back, I don't mean to be like Derrick Henry. I mean to be the running back that gets the most touches and the most targets, but that doesn't have to be a 20 carry per game bell cow like Derrick Henry was. Now, can Derrick Henry come back? Yes. With all of that being true, Derrick Henry can come back. But again, it's about role as much as it is about price, because Derrick Henry can't be that bell cow that he once was, and he has to understand that. And not only does Derrick Henry need to understand that, the Titans coaching staff needs to understand that you don't have to give Derrick Henry should not have gotten as many carries as he did on Sunday. They should have found a way to get Tyjae Spears in there more. With great blocking, Derrick Henry will be better because he'll get a free lane to the second level, all of that. But with bad blocking like the Titans have, Tyjae Spears is the better running back because he can make a man miss more. He's quicker. He's more agile. He can do better with worse blocking. All right? So Derrick Henry can come back, but he has to understand that he's not the bell cow running back, all-pro, $16 million a year running back that he once was. The Titans can't use him like that, and they need to understand as the coaching staff that they don't need to use Derrick Henry like that either. Let him be a tool in the toolbox, not the toolbox itself. Okay? So he has to understand that role. But then you talk about price. That will be the next hurdle. Right now on Spot Track, Derrick Henry's market evaluation is $9.5 million. $10 million for Derrick Henry. It's just not happening. No one's paying that, and the Titans absolutely can't pay that. And here's why. Tyjae Spears is going to be $1.2 million against the cap next year. Would you rather have Derrick Henry and Tyjae Spears for $12 million, or would you rather have Tyjae Spears and Devin Singletary, Zach Moss, Deontay Foreman, DeAndre Swift, A.J. Dillon? Would you rather have that for $5 or $6 million, or Henry and Spears for $12 million for double the price? To me, it's simple. You want the cheaper option. You want the cheaper group. Zach Moss looked incredible against the Titans. Swift has been good. Devin Singletary has been good for it. You can get running back production for much cheaper than $12 million for two running backs. And if you want to go even cheaper, you could pair another rookie with Tyjae Spears and get running back production for like $2 million. Use the money that you save at running back on wide receiver, on offensive line, on secondary, on positions with a lot more positional value. So again, the Titans can bring Derrick Henry back, but he has to accept the role, and he's going to have to accept a major pay cut that gives him about $5 to $6 million a year, around what a Zach Moss or a Devin Singletary or a Deontay Foreman is about to make. Foreman might make even less than that. So for me, those are two real hurdles, role and price, that are probably even in terms of importance. And I just don't know if the Titans are going to be able to clear those hurdles to get Derrick Henry back. And the only way that I could see them doing it is to make a mistake and pay him too much money. But with that being said, we got to talk about two second-year players who are trying to rebound here at the end of the year. Before we get into it, though, do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Look, PrizePicks is daily fantasy sports made easy. All right? So here's how PrizePicks works. They have a projection for every player. Derrick Henry, 50 rushing yards. Will Levis, 200 passing yards. DeAndre Hopkins, 3 catches. Those are examples. All you do is pick a lineup of 2 to 6 players and say whether they're going to do more or less than the projection. It's that easy. You could submit a lineup in like 60 seconds or less, and if you hit all of your picks, you can win up to 25 times your money. And I love what PrizePicks did this year. They made it possible to combo sports together, so you could do like Derrick Henry rushing yards and LeBron James three-pointers. You know what I mean? It's absolutely excellent. Make sure that you guys go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. Use the code LockedOnNFL. for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. Use the code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. It's PrizePicks, daily fantasy sports made easy. Titans fans, let's continue today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast. We talked about Derrick Henry. Should he come back? Talked about his role, talked about his price. I think it's going to be hard to do. Now I want to get into some second-year rebound opportunities for some offensive players on the Titans. And at the end of the show, I'm going to update you guys on where the Titans are at with their tank. So a lot to discuss. Before we get into it, thank you again for making the Locked On Titans podcast your first listen each and every day, Monday through Friday. Tennessee Titans content all year long on all apps, always for free. Make sure you get subscribed, stay subscribed. Also want to let you guys know that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here, and it's covering sports stories 24/7. You get local experts from Locked On, like me. You get coverage from our national shows on every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Be a part of history. But I know there's been a lot of negative coming out of the Houston Texans game. I talked about it yesterday. Again, they're at home in the Houston Oilers uniforms against the JV Texans with all of their best players hurt. Levis gets hurt. Your young players play bad. The coaches get smoked. You drop to 0-4 in the AFC South. You get eliminated from the playoffs. I mean, Derrick Henry is his worst day ever. Like, it was bad. Okay? But there was at least one good thing that we can look at. Treylon Burks, the ghost himself, had 3 catches on 3 targets for 62 yards. Not only that, but Treylon Burks was missed 2 more times, should have had 2 more catches. And one of them was Will Levis's interception where he missed Treylon Burks wide open down the sideline. Should have been a 60-yard touchdown. So imagine if we are sitting here right now, and if he hits that, the Titans probably win. Imagine if we're sitting here right now off a Tennessee Titans back-to-back win with Treylon Burks, 5 catches, 120 yards, and a touchdown. Like, imagine. And that's what it should have been based on the way that Treylon Burks played in this game. We saw Burks catch some deep passes across the middle over the field. We saw Burks catch a screen, make a yards after catch play. Holy crap, drink. Treylon Burks got yards after catch, drink. So we saw Burks start to do some of the stuff that you want Treylon Burks to do. And again, he should have had another 60 yards, another catch, and a touchdown at minimum if Will Levis makes the right play and the right throw. So I have said on this podcast myself, my everydayers will remember, I have said that you can't count on Treylon Burks next year. When you talk about fixing the wide receiver room, you simply cannot involve Treylon Burks in the conversations. You can't go, oh, well, I don't think we need to use that draft pick on that guy because we have Burks. I don't think we need to pay that guy that money in free agency because we have Burks. No, you don't do that. But again, one of 2 things can happen here. What I want to happen, and then an optimistic option that could happen, regardless of what I want. And some of you guys say in the comments, you contradict yourself a lot in these. Don't you guys realize that what I'm doing is I'm representing both sides of an argument? I am not so naive and arrogant that I think that what I think is going to happen is always going to happen. I like to represent both sides of what could happen, whether I want them to happen or not. I owe that to you guys. I'm not just going to sit up here and tell you what I think is going to happen, what I want to happen all the time, and ignore all the stuff that could happen if I'm wrong or just don't see it happening or don't expect it to happen. So keep that in mind. It's not a contradiction. I'm just trying to be fair on all of these points because pretty much everything that we talk about here has 2 or 3 sides that all have a valid opinion. So I tell you what my opinion is and what I think, and then I tell you what else could happen as well. So what I think would be great is if Treylon Burks had a pretty good end of the year here and the Titans were able to trade him for a 4th-round pick. I think that would be great. And then you sign a high-level wide receiver in free agency. You use one of your top 2 picks on a wide receiver in the draft. You have Hopkins, free agent, draft pick, and you ride. And then a 4th-round pick you got from Treylon Burks. That would be great. Even if he doesn't play that well, I'd ship him for a 5th or a 6th at this point. And again, do what I just said I would want to do to fix the position. But it would be cool if Treylon Burks played even better and the Titans were able to maybe get that into a 3rd-round pick. I mean, that would be great. While I don't think that's going to happen, that's what I want to happen. What's probably more realistic here is that Treylon Burks maybe gets back on track a little bit, gets more confident, gets ready to go, and maybe he finally breaks out in his 3rd year and becomes a consistent starting receiver. Maybe he shows a little bit here at the end of the year. The Titans aren't going to cut him or anything like that. It's a trade or he comes back. There is no in between, okay? So if they can't get a trade for him or anything like that in the offseason, then whatever. Then you bring him back and hopefully he can create some momentum at the end of the year this year and go into next year and play better. But the 3rd option is that he looks similarly milquetoast and average, less than average the rest of the way, and then he's just a disappointment throughout the remainder of his rookie contract, and we all realize it was one of the worst trades in NFL history. But those are all the options. But I'm going to hope that he bounces back a little bit and they can find a way to trade him. I do want to mention Chig Okonkwo as well here because it was a slow start to the year for Chig. I think that we might need to face the reality that it can't be your tight end 1 now. He just simply isn't big enough, isn't strong enough, can't be relied upon as a blocker, one-on-one situations to be your number 1 tight end. But he can be your number 2 tight end, and he can be a good flex tight end, a good move tight end, a guy you could use in motion, matchup stuff. Everything that you thought Chig could be as a rookie, he might just not be able to evolve into much more than that. But that's still a valuable player that the Titans can use in their scheme. They just need a real tight end 1 who can help you in the pass game and also block well enough to keep your offense not as predictable as Jeff Swaim and Trevon Wesco has led the Titans offense to be. So Chig Okonkwo in the last 4 games, 15 catches, 189 yards. He's got 395 yards and 43 catches on the year. So he's got more catches, but yards-wise, he's in line with what he did last year. But in the last 4 games, again, 15 catches and 189 yards. He's had nearly half of his yards and a third of his catches in the past 4 games, in the past month. And that obviously coincides with a lot of Will Levis. So while Chig Okonkwo has been a disappointment, while Treylon Burks has been a disappointment, let's see what they do these last 3 games because they're starting to rebound a little bit. And if they continue the positive momentum, I think they can be assets for the Titans in their 3rd year, whether it be Chig Okonkwo back with the team or whether it be Treylon Burks back with the team more again in a trade. So with that being said, we do need to check in on the Tennessee Titans tank. How is the tank going? I'm going to dive into where the Titans sit right now in the NFL draft, look at the remaining schedule of some of the teams the Titans will be battling it out with for a high draft pick. Before we get into that, though, do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Gametime is the best place to buy tickets, period. But if you're someone like me and you're incredibly spontaneous, Gametime is the best place to buy last-minute tickets. They have killer last-minute deals that go all the way up into an hour after the event has started. They have all-in prices, so you know what you're actually going to pay when you click on your tickets. I hate that when you buy tickets with the stack on all these extra fees at the end. Not with Gametime. You get an accurate view from your seat, so you really know what your view is going to look like. I love that. And Gametime has a best price guarantee. They also have their Gametime guarantee, which means you'll get the best price no matter what. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. And look, it's not just football, basketball, baseball, not just sports. They have concerts, they have comedy, they have theater. Make sure that you download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNFL, that's LOCKEDON NFL, for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Titans fans, we are going to cap off today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast. We talked about Derrick Henry's situation with the Titans in free agency. We talked about some second-year players on offense and Burks and Chig Okonkwo rebounding here going forward. Now I want to dive into where the tank stands. What is the tank's current location for the Titans? Obviously, the Titans sit at 5-9. They're eliminated from the playoffs. I'm going to get into where they're at and the remaining schedule of all the teams currently set to pick ahead of them. Before I do, again, thank you guys for making the Locked On Titans podcast your first listen each and every day. Tomorrow's crossover Thursday. Then we have game plan Friday. I'll be live on Sunday night going over the game after it ends as well against the Seahawks. So a lot to discuss coming up here on the Locked On Titans podcast. Get subscribed, stay subscribed. But number one at the top is the Carolina Panthers. Did get their second win this weekend, though. But the Carolina Panthers, that pick probably going to go to the Chicago Bears. Or not probably, it's definitely going to the Chicago Bears. They own the pick. But either way, Carolina is number one. They're going to have the number one pick. They're terrible. But that pick will go to the Bears. Then you have the New England Patriots at number 2. Then you have the Arizona Cardinals at number 3. And all of those teams have 3 wins or less. Panthers at 2, Patriots and Arizona Cardinals at 3. The Titans aren't getting close to those teams. That's not going to happen. All right. So I'm not even going to go over that. And you might as well just think to yourself, those top 3 picks are quarterback, Marvin Harrison Jr. So just go ahead and drill that into your head. Quarterback, Marvin Harrison Jr. Bears, they may take it. They may trade out. Either way, it's going to be Caleb Williams or Drake May. New England's going to take the quarterback that they don't take at number 2. And then Arizona's going to take Marvin Harrison Jr. If Arizona goes to number 2, they're going to take Marvin Harrison Jr. anyway, and then the quarterback's going to go 3. So 1, 2, 3, let that go. The Washington Commanders, they only have 4 wins, and they play against the Jets, the 49ers, and the Cowboys. Oh, my God. I mean, maybe they beat the Jets. Maybe Dallas is sitting all their guys at the end of the year for some reason and they beat them, but odds are that's not going to happen. And that is a team that maybe the new head coach and the new regime there wants to take a new quarterback or move up for a quarterback, but Washington's offensive line has been abysmal and they really need an offensive tackle. So that's a dangerous game for the Titans. So those 3 top picks and then Washington at 4, I mean, it's getting tough for the Titans. So from there, you have Chicago. They play Arizona at home. They play Atlanta at home, and they play Green Bay on the road. Chicago, I think, goes 1-2 at worst, 2-1 at best. So I think Chicago will be behind the Titans, a better record than the Titans. I think Chicago wins more games. Chicago's turned it around. They look decent right now. Chicago against Arizona or Atlanta or Green Bay, they're going to win 2 of those 3 games. I believe it. But even if they just win one, that should help the Titans out. Then you have the New York Giants, and this one's scary. They play the Eagles, the Rams, and the Eagles. They're probably not winning a game unless the Eagles sit everyone at the end of the year with like the number 1 seed wrapped up or their seed is already locked in position or something like that. So again, the Giants are a team I'm really worried about, but they drafted Evan Neal and Andrew Thomas really recently in the first round. Would they really take another first-round tackle? I'm not so certain. So I'm kind of okay with that. Then you have the Jets. The Jets play Washington. They should win that game. They play Cleveland, and they play New England. They should win that game. So I think the Jets could get 1 or 2 more wins for sure. So I think the Titans could leapfrog the Jets. And then you have the Chargers. They play Buffalo, Denver, Kansas City. I don't think they win any more games without Justin Herbert. Maybe they beat Denver, but that's at Denver. I doubt it. Denver's playing good football. Maybe they beat Kansas City if Kansas City's seed is locked in and they play their backups in the final week of the year. Maybe, but I doubt it. So, I mean, and the Chargers are another team that they have Rashawn Slater on one side, but they could really use an offensive tackle on the other side as well. And they could look at the Detroit Lions. They could hire Ben Johnson and be like, hey, they picked Penei Sewell to go with Taylor Decker, so let's do it, you know? So for me, really, I think Chicago and the Jets win more games than the Titans at the end of the road. I think Washington and the Giants and the Chargers are going to be hard to get over. And I think the Titans need to get over at least two of them. They're going to need to flip over the Chargers and the Giants. Maybe just the Chargers. If they could flip over one of them and get the 7th pick, maybe they have a chance at one of those offensive tackles. I feel much more comfortable with top 5. I think 6 or 7 is more realistic because the Titans have Seattle at home and then at Houston and then Jacksonville. Jacksonville is going to be fighting for the playoffs. Houston's going to be fighting for the playoffs and has already proven that they're going to smoke the Titans there. I think with their real players, they're going to crush them at home. The Seattle game will be tough. So we got to hope that the Titans lose this game. Got to hope that Ryan Tannehill plays instead of Will Levis. Malik Willis plays instead of Will Levis to keep him safe. But either way, it's going to be tough. Now, one thing I do want to say here is I think Chicago and the Jets win more games than the Titans. So that should let the Titans jump up 2 spots to number 7 at minimum. Then the Chargers and the Giants and the Commanders all have a harder schedule than the Titans down the road. And if your record is the same, how difficult your strength of schedule is the next tiebreaker. And the more difficult the schedule, the lower your pick. So right now, the Titans' strength of schedule is more difficult than all of the teams above them with 5 wins, which puts the Titans at a disadvantage. So what the Titans need is they need those teams to beat Washington and those teams to beat the Giants. And maybe the Titans end up with a strength of schedule easier than the Giants. And now the Titans can go all the way up to 5th. Same thing with the Chargers. You have to hope that because the Chargers aren't beating those teams, so you have to hope that those teams all win their games the rest of the way, and the strength of schedule goes in the Titans' favor. It's a long shot to get a top 5, top 6 pick, but I think number 7 could really be there for the Titans. And at 7, you're giving yourself a shot at one of the offensive tackles, Malik Neighbors, Brock Bowers. So that's a good place to be. But I'll continue to monitor everything as we go along throughout the season, see where things are. I'll be back with you guys tomorrow, crossover Thursday with Corbin Smith from Locked On Seahawks. But that is going to do it for me today, folks. As always, I am your host, Tyler Rowland, and this was Locked On Titans.